Thomas and the Magic Railroad is the only movie in the Thomas and Friends franchise that has real stakes in it.
So you've lost your sparkle too, huh? Yeah.
Before we talk about them, let's go over the other movies and specials in this franchise, starting off with Calling All Engines. Not only does it ruin Diesel 10's character, the only stakes in the movie are getting the airport built on time. I'm sorry, but that's just not movie worthy. Getting an airport built on time could have happened in an episode or across an entire season. Don't bring back Diesel 10 because you want to rebuild an airport. Not to mention all the learning segments in this movie. This movie sucks, it's terrible. Now while The Great Discovery is better than Calling All Engines, it still just feels like a longer hit era episode. The only stakes are getting Great Waterton restored in time. Again, that's just not movie worthy. They also got Pierce Brosnan to narrate this movie, yet the dialogue is still so simple and bland. The movie also feels incredibly lazy. Thomas feels insecure because a new tank engine is on the island, yet Stanley can only be described as bland and boring. Not to mention Stanley also pulls Annie and Clarabelle. This is just so unoriginal. This movie is just like Calling All Engines. It could have been summed up in an episode or across an entire season. Like, the plots and ideas for many of these movies are just so lazy. Oh wait, sorry to burst the bubble. These movies after Magic Railroad were designed to sell merchandise. That's why they suck. Now we come to Hero of the Rails. This movie makes no sense. I'm not really going to talk about it a whole lot. Spencer should not care what Thomas is up to. The whole premise for the movie is flawed. Spencer is not a villain. He's the Duke and Duchess's private engine. Don't force him into being a villain. It just doesn't work. Not to mention the narration is terrible. Misty Island Rescue is fucking trash, no need to talk about that. Now we come to King of the Railway, and yet again we have another grand opening. Grand openings are not movie worthy. They can be summed up in an episode or in a season. These grand opening movies are just lazy ways to sell more merchandise. The only thing these movies do is just add to the biography of Sodor. They just stretch out the timeline. There's nothing meaningful happening. Alright, Tale of the Brave. Dinosaurs? Really? This is what we care about? Dinosaurs? The engines of Sodor don't give a shit about dinosaurs. And what's with this theme about monsters? CGI Thomas and Friends got really fucking lazy. Just the way they ruined so many characters. So many things in CGI Thomas and Friends is even insulting to the hit era. Alright, next up is The Adventure Begins. We Are Looking Good, a retelling of classic stories that I love. Let's see what they did.
Faster, faster, faster. Oh, turn.
People give this special way too much credit. Way too much credit. This is CGI Thomas and Friends. They should have knocked this out of the park. And you're retelling classic stories. What the fuck? Henry from Thomas and the Magic Railroad is embarrassed. There's no reason to watch this over season 1. Oh my gosh, what's next? Lost Treasure? Oh my gosh. Another bland, boring, nothing tank engine to take over for Thomas? Oh my gosh, this movie is so groundbreaking. Do you realize how sad this is? We have been so deprived of actual villains that fans think that a pirate who wants treasure is interesting for a villain. This movie is just such a stretch. Sailor John is barely even a villain. Can we just go back to the engines being steam engines again? They don't give a shit about buried treasure or a pirate ship. Not to mention, Marion is the most annoying character ever, but Donald and Douglas are back, so already the movie's perfect. And Thomas was a fucking moron in this movie. For anyone saying that Top Hat was too harsh, you obviously prefer CGI Sir Topham Hatt and not the actual Sir Topham Hatt. And what the fuck is this? When did the standards go below the floor? Do we not remember He's a Really Useful Engine from Magic Railroad? Overrated, nowhere near Magic Railroad. I'm not even going to talk about these two movies. They were there to sell merchandise and they just have that corporate stink on them. They're terrible. I totally forgot that Blue Mountain Mystery and Day of the Diesels even existed when making this video. For Blue Mountain Mystery, making an entire story about a misunderstanding of a previous event is not a good premise for a movie, and making Diesel a tattletale villain is garbage. There's nothing at stake, and we all know nothing bad would ever happen to Luke. And Day of the Diesels is shit. It ruined Diesel 10 once again. Now let's talk about Thomas and the Magic Railroad, how intense it is, how epic it is, how much is really at stake. Let's get into it. I'm going to be saying similar things that I said in my previous video, so if you haven't checked that video out, please go ahead and do so. I think it's the best one on my channel yet. Well, first off, this movie has the best villain in the entire franchise, and this time, this character is actually a villain.
She escaped me once before. As long as she exists, so do the others. But if she can be destroyed...
Well, might as well just end the video there. There's already more at stake in Magic Railroad 10 to 15 minutes in than the entirety of the rest of the movies in the Thomas & Friends franchise. But sure, I'll go ahead and give you more examples. Mr. Conductor and Junior are both running out of gold dust. If they don't find the source to make more, Junior and Mr. C are literally going to grow weaker and die. This is confirmed throughout the movie by Mr. Conductor. Burnett Stone has not been able to bring Lady back to life. And even if Burnett Stone can bring Lady back to life and brings her back to Sodor, it still doesn't mean Mr. C and Junior can have more gold dust. This is why Mr. Conductor was on his search for the windmill. He had to find out the clues to making more. Not to mention the film establishes that Lady holds these two worlds together, but only Burnett knew that. Essentially, all the engines on Sodor are at risk. Mr. Conductor and Junior are at risk of dying. Diesel 10's plan is to literally wipe everyone out. And Sir Topham Hatt is not here to save anyone. And even after everything I said, it still doesn't matter because it all comes down to the viaduct at the end of the movie and at the end of the chase. This chase has more at stake than all of the Thomas movies combined. It's not even a debate. Even after Lady is brought back to life and brought back to Sodor, the viaduct represents the entire movie. As Mr. Conductor says, the universe is starting to crumble. There's no way to escape Diesel 10 and escape being crashed and destroyed.
Coming, Puffball!
Without using the collapsing viaduct. Without the viaduct collapsing, who knows what would have happened? Not to mention, the movie establishes that Diesel 10 has already been on Sodor before, with Splatter and Dodge, and has already chased and crashed Lady.
You and all those puffballs will be history. Now tell me where the buffers are. Now!
And did we forget about these scenes or no?
So you've lost your sparkle too, huh? Yeah.
It is so obvious that Thomas and the Magic Railroad is the only movie in the entire franchise that has actual stakes at hand. The movie is daring, takes chances, and is very bold. It has the best villain and cast of any Thomas & Friends movie. The music, the voice actors, Alec Baldwin, Michael Lee Rogers, it all makes for such an entertaining and epic movie, beating out any other Thomas & Friends movie, and it's not even close. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.